second verse is very important.
Now, what's the second verse?
Boys are boys from the beginning. Girls are girls right from the start. Everybody's fancy, everybody's fine, your body's fancy, and so is mine.
You know that will get you cancelled today as well. Alright guys, today your fellow Gen Z Brit, born in the 2000s, going to be checking out Mr. Rogers' first appearance on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. This came out in 1980. Obviously, Mr. Rogers being a beloved character, especially by a lot of my Gen X audience watching. And I'm sure some of my millennials and even maybe a few Gen Zers who may have even grew up watching some of his stuff. And even some boomers, I guess. Maybe boomers would have been like more of age when he started really dropping his shows in the 60s from what I'm aware. Look, long story short, I'm really curious to kind of see what this dynamic is going to be. I've seen him in these kinds of like... these kinds of settings is always interesting to me. Speaking of which, guys, I'm doing some bonus content on the Patreon for those guys that aren't aware, posting new movie reactions, album reviews, and sitcom reviews every week. I've got at the moment around 50 plus exclusive bits of content on there at the moment. So if you guys are interested in getting that extra dose of nostalgia as a Gen Z perspective on a lot of these classics that I'm showing you guys on the screen, and I'll definitely recommend checking out the Patreon, linked in the description below. Of course, it'll be great to support the channel, guys, if you love my content. Of course, if you guys love how I go back in time to check out some of these iconic classic moments from the past from like a whole new lens and learning about these things for the first time, and make sure you smash that like button so I know you guys want to see more. Subscribe to the channel so you guys don't miss another one of these videos. But of course, guys, look, with that being said, enough jibber jabber, let's get straight into the video. Let's go.
Fred Rogers is the host of the Emmy Award-winning popular children's show, which he's been doing for years, called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And he recently created a new program, which is also on PBS, called Old Friends, New Friends. We've had a lot of fun with his show. We've done a couple of satires on it. So just to refresh your memory, we thought we'd play like a minute of the last one we did. So here is part of our version of
he was on
Mr.
Robinson's
Neighborhood.
I mean, Mr. Rogers, sorry. So, wow. Sorry, I've been watching too much Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood recently with Eddie Murphy. Forgive me, guys. Forgive me. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Here is part of our version of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
He was on it. Mr. Codger's Neighborhood? Oh my, is that a young Johnny Carson?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Bro.
A beautiful day to be neighborly.
Look at that sweat patch, man. Yo, that's insane. Yo, who allowed this to happen? Who allowed this? No way he's doing this. Is that even like one of those Bob Ross paintings in the back? If that's a Bob Ross painting, that's gonna kill me as well, man. Like, that's just... Like, I feel like one of those guys that just sees like a picture of nature in the background and just assumes it's a Bob Ross painting. Like, it might not even be a Bob Ross painting, but if it is, I wouldn't be surprised. Sorry, let me actually see. This is actually crazy. This is insane. Who allowed this to happen?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day to be neighborly. Won't you be my neighbor?
That's a criminal sweat.
Are you having a nice day? I am. Yes, I certainly am. You know that you're the most wonderful person in the whole world? Yes, you are. And I love you.
Okay. I don't know how I feel about him saying.
Seems Mr. Codgers could use a couple of odor eaters in his shoes.
What are those shoes?
That aroma would start the windmill on an old Dutch painting. Let's go over here and talk to Mr. Parrot. Here's your breakfast, Mr. Parrot.
Bro, is he dead? Is the parrot dead?
Well, it seems Kitty Cat's been up to some mischief again.
Oh my gosh.
I guess it's riddle time. When is Mr. Parrot really Mr. Froggy? Give up when he croaks. That was a fun riddle.
Oh my God.
Would you welcome, please, Fred Rogers?
Yo, cancel Mr. Cancel Mr. What's his name? Mr. Codgers. Mr. Codgers needs to be cancelled. I was not feeling that at all. Nah, I'm joking. That was funny. All right. He's got to be my least favorite Mr. Rogers like parody. Okay, I like Mr. Robinson's I prefer that one way more, but not bad. I'm sure they must have done quite a few of these.
That was a fun riddle. Would you welcome, please, Fred Rogers?
Poor parrot man.
Tie your shoes.
No, that's right.
Slip on.
Fred, I didn't know whether you were showing up with a lawyer or just to be a guest or to sue us tonight. Did you see either one of those sketches we did?
Of course I did.
What kind of reaction? Did people get angry? Because you've been doing your children's show, and it's a wonderful show. You read a remarkable job. And we did kind of not a put down, but we showed you in a little bit different light.
A little different.
Yeah, and I wonder what kind of reaction you get. Did people think we were excessively cruel?
Oh.
Most of the people that I know like fun just as much as you do.
Yeah.
Hey. Look, I don't know if he's referencing. I recently checked out the Mr. Rogers documentary, and there was one guy on his crew that just randomly showed his bum on camera, and apparently that's like a joke that they be doing, like flashing each other. I don't know, but yeah, it seemed like if that's anything to do with that, it seemed like his people around him were having fun.
I know, like fun just as much as you do.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine Mr. Rogers doing something like that though.
But I'm
Will
glad
you be my neighbor?
Yeah.
You really have a wonderful voice and a wonderful attitude you have with the kids. Kids are not easy to fool. They're much brighter than most people give them credit, and they're hip to catch on to any kind of real phoniness, are they not?
I really think that the most important thing that we do is being honest.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this?
Over 25 years.
25 years?
25, yeah.
I suppose kids that you've entertained when first started. I suppose kids that you used to entertain have gotten married and had kids of their own, and you've got a second generation of kids again, right?
Mm-hmm. And I've seen some of them in the halls here. They said, I grew up with you.
Is that right?
Now I have some children of my own.
Yeah. You used to work at NBC, but not doing the children's show, right?
Yes. When I first got out of college, I was a floor manager for the network.
Yeah.
And did such things as the Kate Smith Hour and the Voice of Firestone and the Hit Parade and the NBC Opera Theater.
So you go way back with the network. How did you get into the children's? How did that start?
Every day that I had free, I would go visit some children's center, an adoption agency or something. And for some reason, I felt as if I wanted to work with children.
Yeah.
And so when the first public station started in Pittsburgh, I applied. My friends at NBC thought I was nuts to go to a station that hadn't even been on the air yet.
Right.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But I think I was led to do that.
Yeah.
It definitely is cool.
You give kids a lot of advice. What kind of reaction do you get? Do you get a lot of mail from children asking to see specific things, or do you more or less kind of set the tempo and decide what you want to do yourself? Do you have a studio audience at all?
Not at all.
I see.
No, as a matter of fact, I feel that it's important to have a rapport with the person at home, the child at home. And so I just look at that one person. I remember Gabby Hayes one time when I was floor managing him. Do you remember him?
I'll tell you a story about Gabby because he is very funny. But go ahead.
I asked him, what do you think of when you look at that camera and know that there are millions of people watching? And he said, Freddie, I just think of one little buckaroo.
Wow.
And that really impressed me.
Yeah. The idea in television, you're supposed to assume that there are just a few people. I knew him quite well in his later years, and he would come into New York with Bill Boyd, Hopalong Cassidy, and he used to get all dressed up, and we would go to Danny's Hideaway in New York. And to see Gabby Hayes with that full beard in a tuxedo going over to the Copacabana to see a floor show was hysterical. He'd sit there and say, it's a wonderful show, ain't it? And he talked exactly that way.
And he had a box at the opera.
Yeah.
He was a very cultured man.
Yeah. Now, on the show, you've done things that which are very smart. For example, you've gotten a haircut on the show because you go back to a lot of childhood experiences that were, I suppose, traumatic or kind of terrifying at the time, and then do them for the children at home, right?
Well, children are concerned when they get their first haircut that the barber's going to cut more than hair.
Right.
Ears, nose, and other things.
So what do? You had the barber come in and...
I go to the barber shop right on film. And then I ask him, do you cut anything besides hair? And he says, no, that's why I go to school to learn to cut just hair.
Somebody said you also had cast on your arm once? Because that's another thing the kids go through when they get the cast with a broken bone or something.
Sure, and when the doctor removes the cast, they're afraid that they're going to take the arm right along with it. And
Did you actually have a broken arm, or?
No, just had the cast.
Just with the cast on, they did it. Yeah, wouldn't go that far for them.
That's a good joke. That's a good joke. That's a good joke. And you see, Mr. Rogers' demeanor just doesn't change, you know. I feel like every time I've seen him in any setting, he just still keeps that same calming presence, like the, you know, his slow talking voice, soothing kind of voice. And again, man, he just comes across really well polished on camera and just seems like a great role model, man. And definitely by the sounds of it and from what I've seen, a lot of you guys as well have let me know he's almost like a national treasure, or maybe he was in many cases. And yeah, man, like Mr. Rogers is one of those legends that just gets held such a high regard. And he's like, if anyone comes to Mr. Rogers, like, you're gonna have a fleet of just an army of people coming at you, man. It's insane, man. Like, he's just one of a kind.
Do you ever discuss? Now, we were discussing sex when we did the takeoff in your show.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever? Are they too young for that?
Not
ever get
That's
into
the question.
That's where they learn the differences.
Yeah. Now, how do you handle it? What do you do to explain? What's your age range, would you think, who watch the show?
Mostly preschoolers, but I hesitate to say that because there's so many older people who watch.
Absolutely.
You know. But there's a song called Everybody's Fancy.
Right.
That I sing. Some are fancy on the outside, some are fancy on the inside. Everybody's fancy, everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine.
I haven't heard that song yet. That's a song. Okay.
But the second verse is very important.
Now, what's the second verse?
Boys are boys from the beginning. Girls are girls right from the start. Everybody's fancy, everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine.
You know that would get you cancelled today as well. Yo, Mr. This came out in the 80s as well. If he said that today, there's gonna be a fleet of certain demographics coming at him for that. See what I'm saying?
Everybody's fancy, everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine.
The second verse, okay. I'm just thinking of...
But the second verse is very important.
Now, what's the second verse?
Boys are boys from the beginning. Girls are girls right from the start. Everybody's fancy, everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine.
That's what I'm saying.
Because sometimes children think that they might change. They might have to change after a while. And, you know, we laugh about that now. But it's because we had that concern when we were little.
Yeah, because you're really not sure, and you thought maybe you'd become a girl, or a girl would become a boy, right?
Right.
Exactly.
And it happens frequently out here.
Oh, he talked about it. Okay.
Sometimes.
Hey, you guys let me know what you think, man, because like people would generally cancel Miss Rogers for saying something like that if in this day and age. And I feel like back in the day, this is the part that because he said people around these times are also that was kind of a thing. You guys let me know, man, because I don't know if this whole like controversy around like gender is a recent thing, or if this has been going on for like a long time now. I feel like I might need a little bit more context on when that started to really come a thing. I'm just thinking man will just get cancelled for stuff like that these days. I'm just saying.
Happens frequently out here.
That's so interesting.
Sometimes.
That's so interesting.
What have you done on the show that's had the biggest response, that's kind of fooled you? Something that you've done that has got a tremendous reaction?
Well, many children are concerned about going down the bathtub drain.
Okay.
And if you have ever had a 2-year-old and have pulled out the plug, that 2-year-old may have screamed if he or she'd been in the tub.
No, that's it.
And there was a man beside me in the airplane who said, you know, you did that song about you could never go down the drain. I thought it was crazy until I saw my kid screaming in the water. And so he said, I pulled out the plug, told him to get out, that he could not go down the drain. And it made all the difference in our family.
That's a good approach. We have to take a short break. We're going to be right back.
Hey man, hey, Carson was slick with it as well. You know, he brought up that question, especially about sex, but he just let Mr. Rogers talk. He didn't even say anything himself, which is interesting. I guess he didn't really dive into his own opinions like that. I mean, by the looks of it, but it's to say, well, wow, okay, interesting first appearance. Again, I don't know what I was expecting from something like this. I didn't expect this whole. I didn't know they did a whole Mr. Johnny had his own parody of this. There seem to be so many parodies of Mr. Rogers' show, especially around these times. Mr. Codge's Neighborhood. It's interesting, man. Especially I feel like in the 80s as well, especially Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was like big around there at least. But yeah, interesting interview again. Mr. Rogers coming through with that similar demeanor that we're used to seeing him in, and talking a lot about how he helped a lot of these kids go through a lot of their concerns that may seem kind of jovial now, but like back then these are like some genuine concerns to kids. And that's what I'm saying, when you're a kid you don't know, like you think you're gonna, I used to think that when I was a kid that I could choke on my saliva, so when I would half swallow I'd get really scared that I would start choking. I'd actually start having panic attacks. Like when you're a kid, it's like you can, God, you know what I'm saying, you can worry about so many things. Even I couldn't sleep in the darkness at a point. I was scared that, you know, some monster was gonna come get me or something. Like that's, you know, I'm sure. Look, you guys, I'm sure when you guys were kids probably had similar things, or maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm exposing myself. But yeah, I love how Mr. Rogers seemed to be someone that was like someone that you could that could put a lot of comfort in the heart of a lot of children, especially with a lot of these kinds of concerns. It's mad that he would, like, it's interesting to think that he would actually do like episodes on these kinds of things, but I'm sure there's kids out there, like he even mentioned in this, that would have genuinely appreciated, and maybe some of you guys watching at home. But look, let me know what you guys thought of this reaction. Let me know what you thought about this interview, about some of the things I mentioned. How did this resonate with you? Were you one of those kids that grew up with Mr. Rogers? Were you someone that was very heavily impacted by him? Were you someone that liked or disliked him? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think. And yeah, guys, look, of course, Mrs. Point comment on blue hearts. I know who my real ones are. And of course, if you want to see my first time ever discovering Mr. Rogers, I'm going to leave that video linked at the end of the video. But of course, guys, if you made it to this point, you guys are the realest of the real. Shout out to you guys. Like the video before you head on out. I've been your boy JayFlex, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.